Welcome, everybody. It's so good to be here. I'm glad you're here. We have a really, I'm excited. I'm like so excited. I'm trying to maintain myself here. So it's going to be an awesome, we've got an hour scheduled together, and there's like a whole lot more than an hour's worth of stuff that we can cover. So I want to set a few expectations first, and we're going to do some interaction as well. So the first thing I want you to do is find the chat window. It's down on the bottom of the Zoom panel. We'll use the chat a couple times during the call today, but open the chat and just tell us where you're calling in from. Just say hi, and I'm going to get mine open as well so I can see some of those. And then, hey, look, there's already some messages there. Good to see everybody. Awesome. I want to start with an exercise as soon as I give you a little primer for what to expect for the next hour, and that I share with you some of the things that I want for you for this next hour. So we're going to talk tonight. Our topic is digital studio best practices. So tips, tricks, and troubleshooting to help you show up online with ease and professionalism. So what that means is, at the end of the call, I want you to feel like wherever you are right now, you are moving a little bit more in the direction of feeling confident, feeling like you have the skills, feeling like you look good, you know, because when you look good, it feels good. And so I want you to feel good about going online and showing up for online meetings and in Digital Studio. So we're going to start with a little exercise. So if you're ready to go, just give me a thumbs up. I can see everybody's cameras here. Awesome. So here is the exercise. It's called high bar, low bar, and we're going to do this in two parts. It's just going to take about 2 minutes or so. But the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what's your high bar for this next hour? What's the very best thing that could come out of this next hour for you? And here's how I want you to respond. In the chat window, I want you to start your message with high bar, all caps, and then a colon. You know how in email for subject lines, it might say like action, colon, and then like have the message. So we're going to use this nomenclature of kind of capital for the first part of the chat as a way to kind of tell us what the message is about, what the topic is. So start your chat with high bar, all caps, colon, and then just tell us what's the best thing that could come out of this next hour for you. And I'm going to give you 1 minute. See some responses coming in. Appreciate that. If you're still working, no problem. Keep going. I'm going to tell you the second half of the exercise, which is the low bar. So I'm going to ask you, what's your low bar? And that doesn't mean worst case scenario, but low bar is what's that minimum thing that still makes this next hour completely useful, completely valuable to you. So what's that minimum measure of success, as long as blank, at least blank. And again, type low bar, colon, and drop that in there. Awesome. And keep them coming. I'm going to just do a 1 minute debrief of this exercise. So what we just did by setting the high bar and the low bar, so often we go into meetings and we say, what do we want? And we talk about what that is. But that's usually this really aspirational thing, this pie in the sky thing. But what we have just done is set two different guardrails for success. High bar is success, but low bar is also success. So we just created so much room in between there to have success and to have successful outcomes for this meeting. So I appreciate you taking the time to share that with me. And I'm so excited after the meeting to really pour through all of these comments, because this is really just a next step in the progression. Of course, there's more trainings, and I've done some videos. I want to do some more. So I appreciate you putting those low bar, high bar in there. I want to tell you just one more thing about nomenclature, and then we're going to get into the content for tonight. So as we go through the rest of this call, I want you to continue to use that chat to add thoughts as you have them, to add ideas. And so a couple of standard things you can do are insight, right? If like you have an aha moment, just title it insight, and then just, drop it in, or idea, or question, right? If you have a question, all caps, question, and then drop it in. And that will help me as I'm scrolling through to be able to make sure I'm picking up on some of those questions.
And if I may, Muddy, sorry.
Yes.
Just going to interject that Rachel and I will be monitoring the chat as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier. So we'll let Muddy go and do his wonderful thing, and we'll keep an eye too on those insights and other comments and make sure we can flag them for him as he's giving us some more education here. With that, I'll...
Awesome. And jump in whenever you want. Marcelin, I'm so grateful for the way that you've helped me get ready for this session and led this effort. So please, jump in whenever you want. It doesn't bother me at all. Looks like everyone is mostly muted for the most part. That's a good, appreciate that. When you need to, or when we have that opportunity, you can jump off mute. Here's what I'm thinking for the format. Right, we only have an hour, not a ton of time. And we've got some preliminary info we just covered right now. I want to take the next 30, 35 minutes and really dive into some prepared content about all these tips and tricks. And I've got it organized into five different areas, which I'll show you. But I also want to reserve about 10 minutes towards the end to kind of check back in, see what came up, what you want more of, what questions you have. And then we'll have maybe 2 or 3 minutes to wrap up at the very end and just talk about next steps. And I've got some goodies prepared for you for after the call to send. So we can look forward to that. All right, Digital Studio best practices. I want to talk about this in 5 different areas. So the 5 different areas that I want to cover are your system. And so I put them up on this whiteboard. Hopefully it's not too loud as I roll it over. Here's how I want to organize it. So I want to talk about this as it relates to, I know the bottom one's cut off, I'll tell you there in a minute. So our goal is to get wherever you are one small step towards your high bar, right? You want to clear that low bar, move you one more step towards confidence, ease, professionalism. What I don't want you to worry about is feeling like you've got to do everything. I don't want you to feel like you need to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. I don't want you to feel like you've got to replicate my system here. I'm like way over the top, geeking out about all this stuff. That's not what I want for you. I want to help you do the best you can with what you have and help you understand if you're going to do 1 or 2 more things, what the first things to do are. And so this is the reason I've laid these out like this. So we're going to talk about system, what that means. We're going to talk about lighting. We're going to talk about audio, talk about the space and the studio kind of layout. And at the very end, it's just hanging down here off the page. You can barely see it, which is good. It says video. And we usually think, I need a better webcam, I need a camera. That's the first place we often think. That's at the bottom of the list. There's a lot of things we can do before that. So, and again, there's a lot that we can cover in this topic. I've picked some of my favorite things. So one thing I have done, and I guess I'll give you a little insight right now about what I'm going to share with you after the meeting, is I put together some checklist that I use. So talking about optimizing your system, improving your lighting, boosting your audio, clearing your space, enhancing your video. So I'm not going to cover everything on these right now, but I am going to use these as a little bit of a framework to talk about a couple of these things. So the first thing you want to do, and I'm going to set my timer for just about 5 minutes because I don't want to spend too much time in any one area. I want to make sure we have time for feedback. In fact, before this session, when I was talking with Lauren, doing a little technical setup with iPads and stuff like that, she's like, you could just get on and let people ask you questions, and that would be super valuable. So I want to be sure, and I see some people shaking their heads, I want to be sure that we leave some time for that. But here's some things as it relates to system. So it's super important. So these are all going to be just my tips, right? Things that resonate, awesome, use them. Things that don't, whoosh, just let them go right by. No worry at all. I have found it's really useful before a call or before a session to restart my system. As your computer runs, stuff loads up in the background apps are running and using resources, and
Hey, Muddy.
yeah.
Sorry, we're getting a couple comments about the visuals being blurry on multiple screens
Ah,
on the other end.
that's probably because I haven't autofocused it. Aha, I just saw it come into focus. Let's see if that works any better. Does that look any better? Thumbs up? Maybe, maybe not. Thumbs down. All right. So don't worry about it because you're going to get a copy of these. So you can blow them up poster size if you want, and they'll be nice and crisp. So we're not going to worry about that at all because there's just a couple of items off of each of these that I want. So from this system piece, talk about restarting your system. But here's the trick. Not right before the meeting. Have you ever gone to restart and there's a mandatory update that you can't do and it's like, oh my word. The whole goal is we want to reduce stress. So about an hour and a half before the call, I restarted my system. And all right, so that's kind of, the other thing I did is I paused or closed any background apps. The whole idea with this is we want to maximize the resources and the bandwidth that are available for our meeting. And so I'm closing anything I'm not using, right? If I normally have a browser with 50 tabs open, I'm closing those tabs, or closing that browser, right? So it's just the minimum things I have open. Checking the Wi-Fi connection, and what's interesting is this is the reason we do this. Right before the call, I jumped on, it's like, wait a minute, my Wi-Fi is like terrible, my video's freezing up, it looked terrible. But I had enough time to log off and log back in and did a speed check, everything's working, I should have great speed. So that was useful to do that kind of reset before, but a little bit before. The other thing that I want to do before my call, and again, this is all to help lower stress, so I feel prepared. I want my whole system up and running and ready about 15 minutes before the call. So that last 15 minutes, I can really just focus on being here, being present, getting kind of, right, some deep breaths and getting into myself, right, before the meeting. So I loaded all the essential apps that I'm going to be using, right? Make sure the screen share is working, make sure that everything is working. So the other thing that I did, so here's 3 other kind of pro tips. One is that, load that back up. If you saw the fact that I'm switching different cameras around, I have a couple of different, oh, that's not a good one to go on because that's a screen capture. So I've got a couple different ones. So I've got a little camera over my shoulder here, which if you look at it from this way, you may be able to see it. It's a little Logitech Webcam C930 right here. So I've got this kind of as an over-the-shoulder cam so you can see what's happening with my setup. So, right, this is how I'm all geeked out, different screens and things like that. I've got my iPad open and sharing on another screen, doing screen mirroring with Air Server. And so that's available if I want to pull up the iPad and show you that. So that's on another screen. I also can connect my phone. But the beautiful thing is I'm switching between those camera views with this little app. If you've ever heard, someone shared this on a call last time, there's a thing called an Elgato Stream Deck. The company is called Elgato. Stream Deck is the device they make. They make a USB device that just has like 15 programmable keys. And you can put whatever you want on these keys. And so like in my Zoom settings, I have all these different shortcuts set up. All right, that was my 5-minute timer. Keep them moving. Try not to get geeked out at any one point. But here's the beautiful thing. Rather than buying an Elgato Stream Deck, they make them in 3 different sizes. Do you recognize what this is? This is an old iPad mini. This is an iPad mini 2. They make a free Elgato Stream Deck app. And so if I put that right here on the camera, this is just an old iPad mini. This is its sole purpose in life. This is an iPad mini 2 now, is to run this little thing. So it allows me to just switch right between different cameras. So super handy. Pro tip, I don't have to be fiddling around with my mouse and keyboard. I've got buttons here that will mute me.
Can't hear you now.
I know, that was me saying, see, I'm muted, because I hit my mute button. I also have a mute all button, so when you're the host and someone's dog is barking in the background, you're like, what the heck is happening? Because Zoom has a lot of shortcuts. So you can program those in, and I could hit that button, and it would mute everyone except me, except the host. So that's a pro tip. Elgato Stream Deck, but get the free app if you have an old iPad or a phone. It works on a phone device laying around. All right, here's one more pro tip on system, and it relates to positioning, right? Making sure your camera is up high. If anybody saw the little teaser video I did, I showed kind of a before and after, and so many, although as I look around, everybody got the memo. Everybody's camera is at eye level. I'm scanning everybody. Beautiful. I'm not really looking up at anybody. Now, here's the next level of that. If you take your Zoom window, if you're having a meeting, position your Zoom window so it's right up next to your camera. So you can look at the camera and you can see people in the Zoom meeting right there. You don't have to look all the way down on your screen to see people. So I try and bring my Zoom window, especially if it's just a 2-person meeting, I drag it up so that other person is right below my camera. And when you're talking, of course, you want to talk into the camera. That's how, all right, you get it. Moving on. All right.
Before we do, just want to throw some more chat out at you.
Yes.
A head nod for mentioning Elgato, because now somebody's thinking they might have some lights that are worth looking at as well. If you could speak to any experience with their other products. Also, let me see if I have this here. There was a comment about just being able to reuse your iPad minis and other iPad products as the Elgato, streaming. That would be great. That's good to know. And questions about with laptops, how can you get the camera at eye level and still be able to type?
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because I have a couple props I didn't even pull up yet. So here's an easy way. Milk crate, right? Put your laptop up on a milk crate, Amazon box, right? You can put it whatever direction and get it propped up, and then use a USB keyboard. So you don't have to be typing on the keyboard. You can use a keyboard and mouse and have your camera up. The other good solution to do that is something like a little laptop stand, right? So here's a little Amazon Basics laptop stand, if you can see that. So you would put your laptop on here with this open. And so now this raises the screen up quite a bit, but it's at an angle, so you can still type on it. And in fact, if you take 3-ring binders, the big fat ones, right, like the 2-inch, 3-inch, they make a little wedge shape if there's nothing in them. You can stack 2 or 3 or 4 of them together and just use a little binder clip to hold the seams together, right? A little binder clip to hold the seams together. You get a little poor man's laptop stand, which is what I used to do before I could spend $15 on this Amazon Basics one. Good questions. So take 30 seconds. What insights came up for you? Capture them for yourself. throw them in the chat. 30 seconds. Ideas around optimizing your system. I have 5 people in my house. I've got 3 teenage daughters, well, almost 1 tween and 2 teens. My wife is a realtor and owns a real estate business, so she runs a team. It's not uncommon that we've got 5 Zoom meetings going on in different parts of the house. So if I'm, and while they're on a Zoom meeting, they're also listening to music on their phone and watching Netflix on an iPad, right? I mean, everybody's got multiple devices. That's just how it works these days. You're sitting on the couch watching TV, which is all streaming TV, and you're on your laptop, and checking Instagram on your phone. So it's not uncommon to have multiple devices. You don't want to see, when I check my system, how many Wi-Fi devices are on my system right now. I can see that because the other things I didn't say in my system as it relates to Wi-Fi, you want to be close to Wi-Fi. I've got a router here in the room, but I'm also plugged in. That's going to be way better if you can plug in with Ethernet. But I use a Google Wi-Fi system so I can actually look and see all the devices that are connected. I can pick one device and prioritize it for the next hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. So that's handy. But I also do a report out to the family and say, hey, I'm leading a workshop. Please don't stream multiple devices at once. So just trying to kind of let me suck the bandwidth for an hour so I can be at my best for you guys. So that all just goes to shutting down other things you don't need to use to prioritize when you're running. So awesome. Love all the insights, co-facilitators, Elgato. Could be a lifesaver, no doubt. It's like having another person with you. Laptop stand, good. DIY, love it. And my goal is to show you some DIY stuff, some like super cheap stuff, and then give you a sense of kind of what next level things are. So you can't see it off the side of my screen, but I also have some of these like portable tables. They're like portable laptop stands or projector stands that I can raise them up to be taller. So that's another way to do that, is to have these kind of other tables. All right, I blew past my 5 minutes. We better move on to lighting. And Marcelin, you set me up with this question about Elgato. They do make lights called stream lights. They're great. They're wicked expensive for what they are, in my opinion. And there's some much cheaper options. But the single best thing you can do to improve your appearance is improve your lighting. So cameras capture light. So when you improve your lighting, you're going to improve your image. So here's some quick tips as it relates to lighting. So the first is, when you are set up for an online meeting, think about, move this out of the way. I heard it described as, think about 2 pools of light. You have one pool of light that's on you or directed towards you. And then you have another pool of light that has to do with the background and the backdrop. And so as it relates to you, the lighting on you, the number one thing you want is soft light. So here's what that means. It means a big light source that is close to you and that is shining through some kind of filter, some kind of diffusion or something. This doesn't have to be expensive. So I'm going to show you what I use. And it's super cheap, and I have one right here. I use a little painter's clip light from Home Depot. And you can just get an LED light bulb to put in here, right? So it's just got a little LED light bulb in here. And for LED light bulbs, they make them in 2 primary colors, but there's a third as well. They normally say soft white, which is kind of more yellowy, or daylight, which is kind of more bluey. And those relate to different color temperatures, Kelvin color temperatures, tungsten, and we don't have to worry about all that. They sometimes have one in the middle that's called like bright white or natural white, and it's somewhere kind of a blend between the two. But I recommend when you're getting light bulbs to choose daylight light bulbs for the one that are shining on you. So this is just a little clip light, and I have one just basically clipped on top of a tripod, a light stand over here right above this monitor. And what I'm using for diffusion, so here's some DIY options for diffusion, to put something over it. The beautiful thing is LED bulbs don't get hot, so you don't really have to worry about putting something over the front of it. You can use tissue paper. That's what this one has on it. 2 layers of tissue paper, duct taped over it. You can use wax paper. That's what this one has over it. Can't see me pointing that one. That's what that one has over it. Or the best option, in my opinion, shower curtain. So even the pros use these frosty shower curtains, brand new. They're like $5 at Walmart. You just cut a circle out of it, lay it over your light, put it on with the rubber band, and you've got a diffused light source that's going to give you a nice, soft, flattering light. So right now, the light on me doesn't have real harsh shadows, right? It's kind of soft and easy, and so that's the trick. Lights with diffusion. And you also want them as close as possible. So you can do kind of 2 theories on lighting, which is there's something called, you may have seen ring lights or heard of ring lights. And ring lights are designed to be front and center, and they're a ring because they can go right around your camera. And they shine on you, and it gives an even lighting, which they call beauty lighting. It's nice, it's flattering, and you can get by with one light. Then there's kind of photographers will use like 3-point lighting. So I'll demonstrate because I have 3 set up for this demo. I've got my main one right here, which they call a key light, and they recommend 45 degrees over and 45 degrees up. And that also helps with glasses, right? So I wear glasses, and you can still see when I angle towards it, I get reflections in my glasses. But it's not terrible, and that helps, having it off to the side. Then the next light in the 3-point lighting system is called a fill light, which is on the opposite side, a little lower, a little less bright, and I just have a little cheap LED panel. It's about yay big. I've got one right here to show you. It's just a cheap little kind of $20 LED panel like this. Oops, that one has a blue cover on it, right? Something like this. And that one has a piece of wax paper over the front of it. It's a little lower. It's just to help fill in the side. If I turned it off, it would just be kind of very bright and really dark, a little more moody. But that's fine. You can dial in those. And you don't need that because you can just put a piece of foam core on that side, and it serves as a bounce to bounce the light off of. That's just put a little piece of white foam core over there to help fill in the shadows on this side. And then the third light in the 3-point lighting system is behind you, shining towards you. So I have another light kind of 45 degrees up there, shining down on me, and it's causing, if I cover it up, you can see the shadow. It's giving me more separation but from the background. It's giving a little light on the side of my head. They call it a hair light or rim light or kicker. I almost never have it, but I did it for this demo. The big thing it does is help give the image more depth by pulling you away from the background. Here's what I want to tell you about the background. So this is the first pool of light. Light's on you. And you can also find, make sure when you buy the light bulbs, they are dimmable. LED light bulbs, not all LED light bulbs are dimmable. And then you can get what's just called a plug-in dimmer. So basically there's a little dimmer switch on a long cord. You plug the lamp into it and you plug it into the wall. And then you have a dimmer which allows you to adjust the brightness of the light. I'll show you one in the back in just a minute. But that way you can adjust the lighting if you need. You notice I closed the shades, the lights behind me, because those lighting conditions change throughout the day. You know what? I forgot to tell you the very best and easiest solution for lighting. Sit in front of a window. I'm not even joking. But face the window. So sitting here with the window open is going to be, the sun is a giant natural soft light. So the trick in a studio, digital studio, is it's not predictable. It changes with changing patterns. So I have the windows closed so I can adjust the lights in here. First
I'm
pool
going
of
to
light is on.
interject at this point.
Thank you.
Sorry. I'm going to interject. Also, just speaking for myself, we're seeing some latency with the video. It appears to be bandwidth. But we got a question here from Andrea with a science experiment. If you were to turn off the light behind you, we could see the kind of change in depth of the light. Would you be able to do that?
Sure. I switched my video source, so hopefully it'll be a little bit better. So there's with it off. It's a little flatter. I kind of fall back a little bit into the back. Now I have another light behind me, which is helping to separate me, but that's the idea.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, very quickly, in your back, right, the second pool of light, you can do some more creative stuff with. So I have some little fairy lights going around the window, just to give some interest. I've got another, what they call practical lights, which are basically just lamps that you can see in the shot. So I've got one over on the desk over there. I've got one over on the desk over here. They just give a little bit more interest. And then I found on sale at Walmart for $5 probably a year and a half ago, one of these kind of color LED strips that you can put behind your TV, which is why it's like blue or purple or some color behind my TV. If I flipped it around, you would just see a little color light strip plugged into the USB port in the back of my TV. People that are into that, like those kinds of things, I don't really know. But I thought it looked cool for this demo. I almost never used it, but that's what I want to say about lighting. Let me check my list to make sure there's nothing else critical that I want to tell you about lighting.
A quick request to just do a close-up on that Home Depot light one more time, the painter's light.
Sure. Sure. There's a little clip on the bottom of it. They also make metal ones, metal painter's lights. That's what that one is on the floor. A little metal painter's light. I just have it clipped to a block of wood, so it's sitting on the floor.
Thank you.
What insights did you have around lighting? You can share them. Take a moment to think about them for yourself. The only other thing I'll be sure to add is when I use a document camera, it's also important to make sure that there's good lighting for the document camera as well. So I actually have a little lamp right here on my desk that if I turned it off, look at how dark it wants to adjust, but it's still dark and kind of has shadows and stuff. So I have what I call just a little task light, right? Just a little lamp on my desk primarily to, if I'm drawing here, so people can see it better. And just because it's fun, I have some of these lights on little smart plugs, so I can say, okay, Google, turn off my fairy lights. Boop. Okay, Google, turn on my fairy lights. Boop. Right? So that's one way to make it fun and easy. All right. Moving on. Here's a question. Have you found something that's useful so far? Give me a thumbs up if you have found some insights already, things that are useful. Beautiful. Good. We're on track. All right, next one is relating to boosting your audio. So believe it or not, audio is way more important than video. And I'm demonstrating that because apparently my video sucks right now. And it's all choppy. But if you can still hear me, it's tolerable. And the same thing goes with YouTube videos, if you can hear, and especially for us as visual practitioners, if you can hear what's happening for a meeting, shit, half the time I'm not even looking towards the speaker in a real life meeting, I'm looking at the wall, right? So audio, that just proves the point, right? Audio is way more important than video. So here's some ways to get audio, but here's the thing you need to know. Audio, same thing happens for light, but audio follows something called the inverse square law, which means the farther you get away, the exponentially quieter or worse it gets. So if you're 2 times away, it's 4 times as quiet. If you're 3 times away, it's 9 times as quiet. So the key to good audio is getting up close. I'm going to demonstrate that now. I'm going to switch mics. Hopefully I can do this without getting any feedback. Can you still hear me? Nod. Thumbs up. You can still hear me, right? Okay, good. Thumbs up. So if I I'll move it up so you can see it. If I get right up on this microphone, it sounds really good. I'm kind of talking low. I'm not talking too loud, but it sounds pretty good. Now, if I just get a foot away or 18 inches away, 2 feet away. Now listen, as I back up, I'm maybe 3 or 4 feet away now. I'm 5 feet, right? 8 feet, 10 feet. I'm across the room. And you can hear me, but you can hear all this echo and reverb inside the room as well. And if you are a speaker and if you're moving around, if you're close to the microphone 1 minute, and then you're over here and looking this way, and then you're up at the board and you're looking that way, your audio is going to change a lot. So the key to solving that is having a lapel mic. I'm wearing a little lapel mic, so it's always in the same position. So I don't know if anybody wondered, how the hell can we still hear him when he's across the room earlier? It's because I'm wearing a little lapel mic. So as I move around, and this goes even so far as a graphic recorder and working as a digital scribe, when I'm looking down and drawing, my voice is projecting in a different way than when I'm looking up. And so I was noticing that my audio was coming, when I was just using my regular mic, my audio was coming through differently just by looking down versus looking up. So wearing a lapel mic keeps it in the same place, helps keep the audio more consistent. You can have a little wired lapel mic. I've got one clipped to the side of my desk, so when I sit down, I can just clip that on. And as long as I stay within, 8 feet or 10 feet of my desk, I'm okay, because it's got a long cord on it. You can get a USB. You get ones that plug into the mic jack on your computer. I happen to be wearing one that is wireless, so I can move around a little bit more freely. The only trick is microphones suck a lot of batteries, so the pro tip is always make sure if it's a rechargeable battery, you recharge the batteries the day before, before the session, or you put in fresh batteries. And if we were doing kind of an all-day training, every time we took a lunch break or a coffee break, I would probably switch out new batteries just so my mic doesn't cut off in the middle of the meeting, because one reason or another, wireless microphones, take a fair amount of battery. I put together.
So, Muddy, you are getting a lot of
list.
questions on this one. If I can, I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
you're getting a ton of questions. Back to the lighting real quick, a lot of insight. Mostly, it sounds like a bunch of us are going to go to Home Depot after this, and we're looking forward to the chance to improve our appearance. In terms of the
Good, I just bought stock
microphones,
in shower curtains, so I'm all...
exactly, that came up too. In terms of the microphones, wondering, first of all, if the one that you're using right now is Bluetooth, or if there's any specific lapel mic that you could recommend. Also questions about, does it make a difference to wear earbuds? Is that the same, different, better, worse?
Yeah, so earbuds can work really well. The one thing to be aware of, so with earbuds, the microphone is kind of in line on the cord, and it's positioned, depending on the length of it, it might be rubbing right against your shirt. So there may be some, or if you have long hair, it can kind of rub right against your long hair, and so it can create some sounds that way. The pros will tell you that they normally take the microphone and put it under the shirt and like put a piece of like medical tape to tape it there, or like even, clip it to an undershirt or something like that to avoid rustling around. That's way more involved than what I'm worried about. But this one is not Bluetooth. Bluetooth has a little bit of lag, and I found Bluetooth to be not super satisfactory unless actually, I take that back. It can get laggy. So there's sometimes an issue with sync with Bluetooth, but as long as what you're hearing and what you're saying are through the same Bluetooth device. So a wireless Bluetooth headphones that have a microphone built in, I've got one of those, or something that you would use with your phone. As long as they're both from the same device, it should be no problem. But if you're using a different speaker and a different microphone, sometimes it can get wonky. And so I've tried to use a Bluetooth microphone with my computer speakers, and I was hearing myself like a half a second after I was talking. And it's just like, oh my God, you can't even think, because it's like, I don't know. If you've ever been in a meeting where there's kind of weird echoey audio, it can be really tough to concentrate. That can happen sometimes. But EarPod Pro, whatever they call them, EarPods, iPod, the ones from Apple that are totally wireless, those work great. My wife uses those. I don't have anything that good. This microphone I'm wearing is literally probably like a $15 microphone. I mean, it's so dirt cheap. And yes, I have recommendations. I spent the past like 2.5 weeks curating a gigantic list of my favorite tech gear, stuff I bought, stuff that's in my wish list, stuff that I've read the reviews on. I had a good time geeking out, and it came crunch time to get all this stuff curated into a list and make the picks. And so at the end of this call, I'm going to share the link. I put it up online at like 4 o'clock this afternoon, 4:30 this afternoon. So all my recommendations are there. It includes lights, clip lights, stuff like that too. Good? Awesome. All right. That's probably about the most important things related to microphones. Here's 2 pro tips around audio. So the first one is avoiding a feedback loop. So it's usually best to have, there's a third one I just remembered. It's usually best to have headphones. And I see a number of you guys have earbuds or headphones in, and there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, your microphone doesn't pick up what you're hearing, so it doesn't create that feedback loop. But also, it allows you to be much more present in the meeting, because you can hear things that are happening better. You can isolate the sounds, especially, it's one thing to work from home. It's another thing when 5 people are all at home and 2 dogs, and we're dog sitting this week, and that dog is like a humping maniac, and so there's like barking all over the, you're right. It's like I actually had to ask them to take the dog back to that other person's house during the workshop because it was crazy. So, but having headphones on really helps you as a participant, as a presenter, as a scribe, be present. You can also help isolate sounds by putting up moving blankets against the door, hanging moving blankets or hanging them on the wall. I bought some moving blankets. I haven't gotten around to putting them up yet because I know my room is kind of echoey. And my room is also all hard surfaces, hardwood floor, flat walls. If you're in a room that has carpet, couches, cushions, the professional voiceover guys, they go in a closet and they talk in a closet because all the clothes dampen the sound, and the sound is great inside a closet with all that soft material around you. So maybe I'll do a follow-up video just on some sound pro tips. Don't worry, I won't have you holding your Zoom calls in the closet. So, but can give you some tips to help with audio. I have a speaker in the room here because I'm not wearing headphones. I have a speaker in the room, but I have it run through a system that minimizes the echo so it doesn't pick up on each other. But here's what I wanted to tell you. When you are scribing, and I see Mark is here. Mark was scribing for one of the sessions a few weeks ago, and he was using a great system. And I was actually talking to Marcelin about this the other day too. Sometimes it's useful to connect to the meeting on two devices. So you can connect to the meeting on your phone, and this is what Mark was doing. So he had headphones in, and he was listening to the meeting on his phone, and the phone's in his pocket. You know what that is? That's a wireless mic. You get your phone in your pocket, you're connected to the meeting, you can hear, and if he needed to, he could unmute and talk to us through his phone. But he was on the other side of the room drawing on a big board, right, on big drawing surface, capturing the meeting, using the webcam from the camera, or webcam from the computer, and the computer screen, so he could see what was happening and we could see him. But with his second device, he was connected to the audio and he could hear it on his headphones across the room. So that can be really useful when you're scribing, to be able to listen in on the call through your phone. One challenge is avoiding feedback loop. The other way to do that is just don't connect to the audio on your phone, or make sure your computer, the key is to make sure that your mics and speakers are unmuted on one of the devices, because if one device can hear the other one, you just get this wah, 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 this kind of escalating echo. All right, pro tips done around audio. How did it get to be 7:50? All right. Insights around audio, share them. Questions, share them. Here's what I want to do since it's 7:50. I want to give you my top 3 pro tips related to video. I'm going to skip the space section altogether. Here's the idea as it relates to space. Cluttered space leads to cluttered thinking. If you can clear the space, it can help your ideas have room to move. Sit down at the dining room table where you've got elbow room, can be really good. Check your background to make sure it doesn't look cluttered, right? As I'm looking around, some of you have beautiful things going on behind you in the rooms, just really cool looking spaces. So part of it is what comes across in video. The other part is how it feels for you to use that space. Those are some of the ideas, and I'll share this checklist with you afterwards, so you'll see these things. I want to share my top 3 pro tips related to video, and then make sure to address 1 or 2 questions or thoughts, and I'll plan to hang out for a few minutes if anybody wants to stick around, but I want to honor the time we set so that if you have to leave at 8, you don't feel like you're missing anything. Does that seem fair? All right, good. Here's my top 3 ideas around video. First of all, it's at the bottom of the list. All these other things matter so much more than video. You can use a webcam. An external webcam is typically going to be better, even a relatively, well, what should be cheap. Freaking A, people are selling these things for like $300. It's total ripoff price gouging right now with webcams, which is why on my list of favorite webcams, I listed like 10 because you may have to go down the list and whatever. Usually any external webcam is going to be better than your built-in webcam on your computer. But it's going to be even better if you can adjust the settings. And I did a video on this not too long ago showing how to use Logitech camera settings to adjust color balance and brightness and autofocus and stuff like that. You're going to get way better results. Since that video, I found someone was having trouble with the settings not sticking every time they restarted or every time they opened their online meeting app. The camera was defaulting or resetting back. Logitech makes another one called G-Hub, and G-Hub worked for this peer of ours. G-Hub, same thing, you can get to the settings, but they seem to stick for them, so if you're having trouble with that. And there's another video related to that. I've got, all right, I'm super proud of this one setup, so I'm going to switch real quick here. You might have saw this earlier when I had this flipped up. I'm mirroring my iPad on my desktop screen, and then I have also my camera there and my logo. This was like 1 o'clock in the morning last night, and I was like, wow, this is so good. I use this all the time, right? But if you use something like, in order to get your iPad screen to show up at all as your camera, you want to use some kind of a virtual camera app like Manycam, which is what I'm using. And when you use Manycam, you can add additional layers. So you can do a picture-in-picture like I have here. I actually have picture next to picture rather than overlapping it, but you could have it overlapping. Because even when you're drawing or showing a document camera, it's nice to be able to see the person to maintain that personal connection. So if you're going to use a virtual camera to show a document camera or to show, might as well also have a little inset where it's your face so people can see and connect to you as well. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I'm happy to share that Zoom is now fixed for Mac OS users. If you haven't updated to the latest version, it's time, 5.0.4. They're going to force you to in a couple of days to go to version 5 anyway. It's now working with virtual cameras. Works great. I put some recommendations in for document cameras. I've got a document camera here. But you can also, if you have an external camera, you can use it like a document camera. And what I have this connected to is a mic stand, a microphone stand, like a boom stand. So it has an arm here that can, right, like, oh, I could have a microphone on here. But instead I have my camera. But because it's a boom stand, I can have it leaning straight out and over my work surface and shining straight down. So I'm using a webcam like a document camera just by shining it down. You can also accomplish that same thing. I was talking with Tim Hammonds, who was leading some workshops this week and was like scrambling to get some tech solutions set up on low budget and 24-hour turnaround time. And so one of the things we talked about was using one of these, gooseneck clamps, gooseneck arms. It just clips right on the table, and you can clip your phone in here. So you can connect your phone to the meeting as another participant and use your phone looking straight down as a document camera also. So this was one of the things that he had. Right, so, and in fact, your phone is probably going to be the best camera you have. And so you can also use your phone as your webcam. The limitation I found with the phone is that you can only see 4 people at a time in a Zoom meeting on the phone. But there's no reason I couldn't have my phone sitting right up here as my camera. You would see me on the phone, But I would also be connected on the desktop so I can see all of you beautiful people on the desktop, right? So another if you can connect to the meeting with two different devices, because the whole idea is you need to see people, they need to see you. That's video two different directions. You want to see the screen so you can see them, and you want to have a camera so they can see you. And with headphones and microphone, you want to hear everybody, and they want to hear you. So it's basically audio two different ways and video two different ways. And there's no reason that all has to come from one device, right? I'm using one microphone, using a different camera, watching on a different screen. So even though I'm only connected to the meeting with one device. But anyway, those are some tips related to video. This sheet talks about having a primary camera. I don't know if you may have noticed, I zoomed. I'm using a DSLR. I'm using a Canon DSLR camera as my webcam. And there's some ways to do that. You can plug it in and have software that reads it, or an HDMI capture card. But again, those are really price gouged right now. So you don't need this. Like, it did me no good because my video was like 2 seconds behind real life anyway, this whole call. It didn't matter. But on this sheet, I talk about using a primary camera, having a document camera, a webcam. You can connect through Manycam. You can actually use your phone as a webcam into Manycam. I just send the request from my phone. I have to say accept, from my computer, I say accept on my phone, and now my phone shows up as a video source in Manycam. And I can use it in my meeting. I had that set up before the call, but, live demo, shit breaks. Yeah. That's it. It's 7:59. I did not leave a lot of time for questions. So let's take one or two questions. Marcelin, things that jump out to you, and then we'll make sure we cover our last couple outro bits, and I'll share some goodies with you.
Well, I just want to thank you, and I know we've got some folks hopping off right now, so thank you all for joining us. I love having everybody turn out and ask great questions. I think we did have one last one about the speakers, if I heard that correctly, with using your phone in your pocket as your mic. I hope I didn't miss any others, but I'll throw that one out there. And Muddy, thank you again. I know you have to run soon too, but we'll take one or two more comments from you, so thank you for that.
Awesome. So if you're going to use your phone in your pocket, you definitely want headphones. And I think that probably solves the problem with the speaker situation. I'll look back through and make sure I covered that question in depth, but hopefully that does it. All right. Here's the 3 things to take away from. I'm just going to hold it up and I'm going to show you what it says, because I know my document camera isn't coming through real well. So. And I'm going to send this to you afterwards. So there's 3 ways to get more. One is to book a free discovery call if you've got some quick questions. I have a 30% off discount code for IFVP members to book a one-on-one coaching session, do a deep dive on your setup. I've worked with a number of you guys already, a number in our community, to help optimize your studio, right? So let's point all this goodness at your exact setup and questions. And so we've got a discount code to do that. And then this favorite gear. So why don't I tell you that link right now? And I set up a short code, kind of like a bit.ly, but here's the short code. It's WBA for Whiteboard Academy, WBA.Inc, I-N-K, okay, WBA.INK/gear. All right, so here's the short code, whiteboardacademy.inc, WBA.inc/gear will take you right to my super duper favorite curated gear list. So you can check that out. I'll send this out as well. And if you haven't signed up for the 3-hour IFVP training coming up on June 6th, again, it's $20. You kidding? I mean, we're pretty much giving it away. I'm going to go really specifically into 5 different ways to work visually in a virtual world. Today was really all about how to show up with ease and professionalism in online meetings. There I'm going to really dive into 5 different setups from low tech to high tech. So different topics, only a tiny, some related items, but completely different content and so much goodness. So hopefully you will join there. Boom. Mic drop, right? Marker drop.
Absolutely, Muddy. Thank you so much. A lot of resources there. So again, wba.inc/gear for some info on those resources. IFVP, you'll be June 6th, you said, correct? And Whiteboard Academy, go there for more information on coaching and basically all the goodness that Muddy has to offer.
Yes, I muted myself. June 6th, it's a Saturday.
Thank you, everybody.
Because it follows the same format. The IFBP is going to be 3 Saturdays. And so we're going to do this before the IFBP on a Saturday. So thanks so much, guys. If you're willing to share your final insights or what came up, what worked well for you, drop them in the chat because I'm really looking forward to reading them.
And if you have any visual notes you've taken from this evening, we'd love to have them on the Meetup site too. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.